Now, we've got one last very important conversation before we break, and this is one that a moderator, Georgette, referred to earlier. It's all about STEM education. And of course, I don't need to tell you what STEM is. It's sciences, it's technology, it's engineering, it's mathematics. This is a crucial pathway in which girls and women aren't as included. And this is the next panel that's going to really address how to make more women choose these subjects, these crucial STEM subjects, but also remain in these fields when entering their professional life. So, once we're ready, ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to introduce our next panel, and it will be moderated once again by our wonderful Georgette Tan, the president of United Women Singapore, and she'll be joined by panelists Sapna Chanda, Omuoy Heang, Michelle Khoo, and Yoke Chong. So please give them a big round of applause.
Hello again. Thank you, Georgette, for that lovely introduction, as always. Charming as always, thank you. And ladies and a few gentlemen in the audience still here again, thank you for joining us in what is clearly a topic that is very clear and very, very dear to many of us, certainly the ladies on this panel. And I'm very privileged to have the opportunity to moderate. Because we're really, really tight on time, we've been advised by the organizers that there will be no Q&A after this session. That's not to say you can't run up and grab the panelists after. In fact, I highly encourage you to do so. And I'm going to, again, in the interests of and efficiency of time management, you've all read the bios and CVs of our wonderful panelists here. You know about their achievements. You know about what they've been doing, not only in their workspace and their organizations, but broader, their own personal commitments into the community and into their personal lives too. So I'm going to skip that part and I'm going to get into what we're all here for, which is the real discussion. The real discussion around pathways into STEM and the fostering of tomorrow's innovators. That's really the crux here. And we're going to have this as a discussion. We've all agreed. It's going to be a lovely little chat. There will be some questions posed, because otherwise I won't be doing my job. But I will be posing some initial questions, but everybody's just going to jump in and interject and banter, because that's what's the most fun, right? Okay, so Yoke, I'm going to start with you first, okay, if I can.
Sure.
And simply because we know that you've done so much in your space, on the commercial front, in your networks, in the community, in the industry. All right, let's talk about this big issue of the ecosystem and why the ecosystem is so important as we start to delve into this discussion on STEM and the fostering of tomorrow's innovators.
Well, thanks, Georgette, for the question. I think that's very relevant as we look at diversifying pathways right into STEM. I'd like to actually perhaps dissect the problem into three parts, right? In order to actually have and understand the pathways and how we could change them or improve them, and perhaps we needed to look at three cohorts. The first is actually girls, right? When we talk about girls, we mean whether they are, whether girls in general can actually achieve excellence in STEM. and STEM subjects. And what do we mean by that? It will be maths, science, and also the convergence of these subjects. And from the stats, I think MOE has done an excellent job, MOE and parents as well, and of course children, that there is actually no bias, right, when the girl is from primary school to secondary school, right? And then when you look at so that's one, right? So that's the school stage. The second stage that I'd like to address is actually when women are working. Do we have the right ecosystem, and how can we foster that? And the third is in the community. So let's talk about schools, right? When the child is in school, right, as I mentioned, there is no difference in terms of capabilities, right, in STEM subjects. So the girls do as well as boys. And so you wonder what happens after that, right, when they go into diploma and into the universities. And again, we see girls also excelling, right, in those subjects. And we see that there is a greater uptake now of girls in medicine and dentistry. And in dentistry especially, right, it's three quarters of the class, the latest cohort are actually girls. And in medicine, right, we have about half of the class being girls. And then in many of the other subjects too, right, the girls also, enroll and they do well and graduate, except for ICT, which has seen an increasing number of girls in there, and engineering, but I guess we haven't reached the half mark yet. Right, so that's at the capability building section. So I think in terms of universities and schools, right, they do a good job. Then comes to the next stage, which is women at work. And for women at work, right, there is, again, this is why we have this discussion today, right? How can we actually bring more capable women who are, women who are already capable and who are already, very well endowed in STEM capabilities? How can we actually bring them, more into the workforce? And are there actually circumstances in which, circumstances that actually prevent, women from excelling, right, in their careers? And I think these are improving, and the subject of today's talk is to actually, kind of dissect this issue. But I think just to sum it up, right, from my experience, is really about mentoring and partnerships, right? So you have to have enough girls, right, in a career in order for that career, to actually, attract other women, right, into that career. And that we were talking about is STEM. And STEM will play a great part in in many of the other disciplines that we see today, even in finance, right? You have AI in finance, AI in healthcare, everywhere. So the question now is that how can we actually tap, right, on women to actually, provide, that necessary talent, to further our industries. And I think we have it all there. It's a matter of just putting things together in an organized way, right? And I think the minister has spoken about that too. Really is about having that organization, and some of the things that has happened, right, in my life is Singapore Computer Society, right? We actually launched this Women in Tech program, right, where we actually have 100 new names every 2 years, right, of women who are recognized, right, for their capabilities and their excellence in STEM. So that's one way, but I think across the nation, right, we can do many things, many informal things like this forum to bring people together into their awareness. And the third is really about community, right? How can you get more, women in, in the caregiving space, and in also, I mean, they're already there, of course, but question now is that how can we actually equalize that that caregiving space to include more men. So the whole idea is partnerships, inclusion at every stage.
Thank you, Yoke. I'm just going to take off one point that you raised earlier, which is, when the girls are in the younger, especially in the younger stages, clearly there's no disadvantage for these girls, and competency isn't the issue. All right, and our girls do just as well, sometimes maybe even better than their male counterparts in schools. The issue, I think, and I hope we get to this at some point, so ladies, please jump in. The issue is that of confidence, not competence, all right? And it's the lack of confidence that they grow up in, the community that doesn't reinforce that. And again, it goes back to this question of the ecosystem. How can the ecosystem then support these girls and build their confidence so that they leverage that competence and fulfill their full potential? So Sapna, if I can jump to you at this point, because I know with Google, you've been doing a lot of work in the community, just picking off on the point that Yoke talked about. What are you seeing as part of these initiatives, when you're working with the girls and clearly starting to see them either gain interest or maybe even lose interest in this space? Love to hear your comments.
No, it's great, and thank you for having us. When I think about my own self, I'll start. I am not by coincidence at Google today. It started because my mother was in tech, and I come from a tech household. And I think that that's really, it's a benefit in my case. But, when I looked at some of my peers, right, it was, the culture of like succeeding in tech, pushing through tech, going against the tide, right? It's hard unless you can have a community that can raise issues. But if the community doesn't help guide you through things, right? And so I think there's been a lot of awareness and discussion and chatter, but are the support systems now helping to facilitate? Because I think that when I think about mindset, it's twofold. It's internal mindset and it's external. First, we have to solve from within and make sure that we have the confidence, right? And so my confidence came from role models. So exposure to role models, and I don't think there's enough of them, right? And I think we were talking about this backstage, right? That there are so many women that are in tech. Do we know their stories? Are we talking about them enough? And I think some of the women on here on the panel are doing a great job of it, but are we doing enough? I don't think we are, right? And I think the media also portrays things in a way that actually makes it seem like it's harder. The movie Hidden Figures, yes. Catherine Ferguson, great, she was the first woman, but they depicted her as a very nerdy child who was an exception. She was so exceptional. So it made it seem like it was rare. I faced multiple barriers in my lifetime, but the reason that I could keep pushing is because I saw my mom do it. She was a computer programmer. I saw her do it. So I'm like, if she can do it, I can do it. And so I think a lot of this is internal mindset, but that only comes from really, really seeing role models. The other thing is we have to address the systemic bias. A quick story, I was in a business lounge just 4 days ago, and a man came up to me he was looking at me, he's like, oh, you're working really hard, and you are tapping away at your computer, what do you do? And I said, I work at Google. And he made the assumption right away that I worked in human resources. And I said, why do you think, and
you set him straight, right?
I set him straight, and my younger self wouldn't have, right? But I realize now that we have to address the systemic bias, right? He means well, probably, but I said, why do you assume that I'm from human resources, right? I lead the business at Google. I have I have many male direct reports, right? It's the norm. I think we have to address it. We have to be less nice in addressing the bias. I also would say at Google, in terms of what we're doing, right? We have to hold our men accountable. If I think about in my career, I've had a lot of support from men sponsors. The reason that has happened is because they've been held accountable. So whenever we are doing the community groups that we have, are there goals? Is there accountability? And are we actually having real talk about the biases and helping women navigate? If I attend programs, but I don't have somebody to help me navigate outside of those sessions that I'm in, I'm going to get lost. And so I think we need to do more, right? I think we're talking a lot, but I think we need to do more to assist.
Absolutely, and I think that's a key takeaway. The awareness is there. We're starting to see that. The data is coming through. The advocacy is coming through. We have to move that into action. Right? And speaking of action, Michelle, I'm going to jump to you because unlike Sapna, your background is not in STEM. And yet today you lead the Deloitte Center for the Edge. I mean, it doesn't get more bleeding cutting edge than that. So tell us a little bit about that and your journey, but also what you're seeing in terms of women who are also on that journey, who may not be from that STEM foundation, STEM base.
Yes, thanks, Georgette. So yes, exactly. Just to share a little bit about my background. I started my career in banking, investment banking, so similar to
Minister, yes.
Minister. And then I went into government. So I was with the Ministry of Finance, and my journey in tech only started about 2 years ago, where I joined the Futures think tank in Deloitte. And of course, technology is a huge driver of change, in our future. So I think what you said about ecosystem is so important, because if we go back to the topic of diversifying pathways, the ecosystem is really important in helping you find new opportunities, and also encouraging more unconventional hires into tech fields. Actually, if you look at the topic, diversifying pathways into STEM and fostering tomorrow's innovators, they're actually quite different careers, because in STEM, perhaps you're thinking more of your specialists in these topics, whereas for innovators, and which is the space I'm in, you actually can come up with more ideas, you can be more innovative if you are able to see and connect the dots between two industries that maybe don't seem to usually come together. So I think that part is really important, and that's also where I think women who perhaps didn't start out in STEM can find opportunities and can make a very valuable contribution, even if they didn't have the tech background.
I'm going to ask a question right now. Did you have a mentor?
I don't have a mentor. Oh, actually, I do. Now I do have a mentor in STEM, who's from STEM. But I would say it's not just a senior experienced mentor with the younger generation, but what really helped me in my journey was that ecosystem, where I got to build networks across different industries, many of whom are women in tech as well. And it's about championing each other and encouraging each other. And like you said, it's how do we build our confidence and not have that imposter syndrome. And I think that's where ecosystem is really important. And it's not just thinking about top-down, but learning from anybody, including the younger students.
Absolutely. Sapna, you were nodding vigorously there. I know you've got something to say.
I was thinking the same thing. I think at all levels, everybody's talking about mentorship, sponsorship, but actually you have a lot of friends and peers that can help. And you can all hold yourselves accountable. Like, I've put my hand up for roles because I've had a girl tribe. Doesn't have to just be all girls, but where you can actually push each other. And but women are not networkers as much as they should be. I look at this audience today and I'm like, I think more seats should be filled because, but we don't make as much time for this. And the network, your own network, which can be a bunch of friends. It doesn't have to be something that's not enjoyable. It can be enjoyable, but do you have your tribe that's pushing you along? I think it's important.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to move on to a topic which was raised earlier as part of the Q&A prior to this, and that was about giving back. And clearly that's a topic I think that runs long and deep with this audience too. And who better than to talk about the work that's needed in the community than Omuoy, and the work that she does, clearly not just in her own organization, but around the world. And can you share what you see that we need to do for, again, to build this pipeline, the pathway? How do we get more young girls, young women to start and be encouraged to go into STEM and not be afraid of it? Omuoy? Your own experience, please.
Well, thank you so much for very good morning, distinguished guests, talking about women in STEM and bringing more women and girls into technology is very close to my heart. It is something that we have been doing for 12 years. I actually software engineer by degrees, software engineer by career, and then become technology entrepreneur, become technology educator by our technology education center, and also taking care girl and technology not only in Cambodia, in the region, but also in the globe. Yes. So I'm so excited about this topic. I'm going to share you what we have been practicing for this 10 years, and it has been very impactful for not only Cambodia, but in the region and global as well. Before coming direct to what I'm talking, may I share a little bit just about ecosystem, because it plays a very important role in order to connect between government, policymaker, educator, industry, and community. Normally, government always set policy in order to grow economic, to build inclusive environment, while educators need to work very well and work closely with the industry to ensure that what they educate is truly needed by the industry. And the community like parents, we individuals who have long year experience in technology, in career, need provide support, encouragement, mentorship, a role model to those people as well, in order to make sure they feel so comfortable coming to the state. So coming to the practice that we be able to enable and encourage, especially provide more space to women and girls into STEM just nowadays. First, our mindset. Before we change somebody's mindset, before we change somebody's way of thinking, we ourselves need to have a heart of it. Not just by saying, but from the bottom of heart, we need to open a safe environment for them in order to join community of technology, to join career of STEM. This is very important. And then we ourselves need to provide a strongly support, safe environment, full encouragement, and strong support to everyone who would like, who are interested, and to let them know that you have a great potential. Of course, it doesn't mean STEM is the only one career in the world, but at least to let them know you have high potential to be somebody in STEM. So, firstly, being a role model is very important. We can be a role model. We can show or point any role model that they can look up. And second thing, we need to create and program. I believe that Deloitte and Google and also the community of computer in Singapore and many people have been doing it. We create community such as competition, learning, coding. Example like Technovation Girl, a global technology entrepreneurship for girls. For them, in order to expose, to try what is happening and to learn something. If we would like to change mindset, we can't change mindset people at 20 years old. We need to start from early age. When they are at 10 years old, at 6 years old, we need to enable them to let them see how important in technology and whether they can take any place in this space or not. And the important thing is about providing career paths and support. After enabling them to see what is happening, after showing them the roadmap, provide the opportunity for them to work is another method that we need to consider. We as employer, any organization who provides space for women can consider about providing more and more opportunity for them to try. When they try, they will feel it. When they feel it, they will love it. And then they will not only become normal employee, but they can be a leader. They can be the one who inspire and influence in the future as well. Another important thing that we cannot miss is policymaker. We need to work very closely with policymaker. in order to have more supporting policy, because women in STEM like us is not only working as employee, but can be community leader, can be entrepreneur, can be somebody else who are not working to support our own company, our own community, country, but for the world. So these are very important. Last but not least, surrounded environment like us, parent, sister like you here, parent like a father, mother, auntie, can be their supporter to let them know you can go to STEM, I support you. STEM is not only for male but also for female. One important thing that I would like to share here is promoting diversifies is not only for equality, but also meaningful strategic of creating a meaningful economic and prosperity. So this is something that we all need to consider together. Every evolution, every change starts from us, from our heart, from our commitment, this persistency, consistency, and open a space where everyone can come and join together, can collaborate, can be the best, can be someone, especially in STEM environment, that they can be the future leader. This is something that we have been doing, and it benefits a lot. And also, we are going to do more and more.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Moy. Okay, it would be remiss of me not to include this topic here, which is not just about bringing in the early pipeline, starting earlier. What do we need to do? And I'm going to throw this open to everybody here. What do we need to do to address the issue of the leaky pipeline? Women who come in, who may actually excel in their workplace, but because of circumstance, find that they have to step off. What do we do, or what do we all need to do to, no pun intended, stem that? Stem the tide of that happening. But how do we bring them back?
Yeah, maybe have
Please,
a go
Yokson,
at that,
yes.
just a quick one. Right, I think at the end of the day, we would be all successful if every job, right, that we went for was actually based on our capability, all right, and we will not be stymied, because we are a woman. I mean, we are women, right? So that's the key, and I think, as you say, to stem the leaky pipeline, if it is a choice, right, that we make for our families, that we want to spend more time with the family, more time for the kid, right, for his PSLE, then let it be so, right? But let it be that we can actually go back to the workforce as we wish, and we should not be labeled or biased, right, in our career because of that sacrificial years. So I think I mean, we have been talking about that. It requires a change of mindset, an accepting mindset that everybody is equal, and for that to happen, right, is for all women to have role models, and the fact that we need to be confident to say that, hey, whatever we do and all that, we can find another woman or maybe another man to actually confide in, and we are never, right, deprived of a position and an opportunity because of our gender. So I think it's a whole mindset, and I think if we work hard at it from school to work, by building communities, and I mentioned one of those platforms, right? We have Computer Society. Of course, there are many. There's SG Tech. There's even Google, right? Has all their community reach out. So as long as we know that there are people that we can confide in, that we don't feel that we are different, or we are rare, right, or we are funny, right? I think that we have that supporting culture, right, to move the whole ecosystem. So basically, my answer to you is that the ecosystem is actually in ourselves, right, and the people that we affect.
And maybe I'll build on
please.
that, because I agree the ecosystem and the community is part of it. To make sure women have the confidence is also making sure to give them the education in maybe non-traditional ways.
Yes.
Right? Going back to school isn't always, a possibility. But one of the things we're doing as Google is we've created these career certificates, which help to get people upskilled in areas like cybersecurity or AI or a number of things they can do on their own. And one of the things we're doing is saying, even though maybe the workforce isn't 50-50 men and women in STEM, we're going to give 50% of the scholarships to women in the countries where we're operating this everywhere. But I think coming back to the confidence piece, if women don't have the knowledge, they don't move forward. So we have to find ways to creatively give them the knowledge. They can do it on their own time, and they can do it in different ways. I mean, again, coming back to my mom, she studied at night when I was 1 year old to be in tech, right? It's possible, right? We have to find ways to do it flexibly.
Can I
Please,
just jump
Michelle,
in?
please.
Yeah. So I think the leaky pipeline, the first thing we need to do is to establish the business case for fixing this pipeline. Why is it a problem? And I think if you look at, particularly in tech and all the developments in AI, hard coding and computer science actually becomes maybe a smaller part of tech. It's not the only thing, and especially with Gen AI, being able to do a lot of coding. What's most important actually within tech is also having that diversity of views, being able to understand what are important issues. And as mothers, daughters, wives, and being in the community, that's something we all know very well. What are the problems that STEM and tech are trying to solve? Just to share one Deloitte research as well, we found that organizations that have an inclusive culture are twice as likely to meet their financial metrics. So I think presenting that business case back to why this is important then can motivate leaders to know why we really need to solve this problem. And my message sitting here today is really that it doesn't have to be just because you might have missed the boat when you were younger, does not mean that you cannot make a valuable contribution later on. And we really need to start then seeing maybe leaky pipeline, but how do we then bring unconventional hires back into the workforce and making that statement there.
Well, so your question reflecting well to the current situation right now, because a lot of women love the career of STEM, especially in technology, when they get married and when they start another journey of their life. By the way, to retain them, of course, we cannot just ask them to stop from their family and to stay in STEM, but what we're gonna do is we can always impress them by providing them opportunity, at least to work part-time maybe, could be a mentor, could be a coach, and could be somebody who join our community to make community to become bigger and bigger and prosperity and diversify of male and female. So to me, it doesn't matter who we are, how much money we have in the bank, in which position we are. The value and meaningful life is we create value for others and be the more kind person that we know, just to make us happy and live peacefully.
Thank you very much. So, in summary, lots of good points here, lots of takeaways, everything from obviously the larger ecosystem, the importance of it, starting early, the importance of mentorship, the criticality of, guess what, networking. So please network out there, ladies, right? And obviously lifelong learning, which is what we've all been talking about. And that, take it from the panel here, it's never too late to start. All right? And it's never too late to start or too late to get involved in, especially when it comes to giving. The point of giving back, just as these amazing women on the panel here have been mentors, have been role models to their networks, you all can do the same too. And if you'd like to be a part of any of the many community groups that serve women, especially women in STEM, please come and speak to us after this. There are representatives from the organizations that I serve on, UWS and SG Her Empowerment and SCWO. So there are lots of opportunities. Please step up, ladies, okay? And follow a great example of the 4 amazing panelists that we have today. A round of applause for them, please. Thank you very much, ladies.